Do you long for the warm, summer days of childhood, no responsibilities, sipping Capri Sun out of a thin yellow straw as your mom heats up some pizza rolls in the kitchen, and you try to get through one more level of banjo-kazooie? Nostalgia is a hell of a drug, and By9 Studios has created the generic drug version of this longing with Cavern of Dreams, a retro platformer that looks straight out of 1997. Before we get lost in reminiscing about the past, let's take a step towards the future and head on over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames. Join our awesome crew of indie-loving individuals and earn yourself Discord access, early and ad-free content, exclusive videos and podcasts, and so much more. Your community is waiting. Cavern of Dreams is an old-school platforming adventure straight out of the 90s, except for the fact that it was released in 2023. You play as a dragon named Fynn, who is tasked with rescuing their egg siblings from the clutches of evil. You'll save them from their perilous perches and return them to your home base, where they can be nurtured and hatched in peace. There's about as much plot here as you would expect from a late 90s platforming game, aka not a whole lot, but the story serves as a device to explain the gameplay loop, and it's pretty successful in doing so. If you're anything like me, the first thing you're going to notice about Cavern of Dreams is that it defaults into a blur filter. You may be tempted to clean your glasses, but do not adjust your television or visual aids. This filter can be turned off immediately in the options menu, and I would highly recommend doing so. I understand the purpose of the effect is to remain true to the era, but my eyes are bad enough on their own, thank you very much, and I do not need help in the blur department. From the menu, you enter a brief tutorial that gives you the basic rundown on Fynn's abilities, including a roll that turns into a run, a jump, and an interact button. The more eggs you save along your travels, the more abilities that are bestowed upon our hero, including some wings to glide and a horn to bounce higher than your average jump. From your main hub, the game opens up into a platforming collectathon as you gather your shelled siblings, pick up cards, and interact with peculiar locals. Environments in Cavern of Dreams feature a few puzzle elements that are reminiscent of the late 90s gaming. You'll don jester boots to walk on air, hurl a beaker of medicine at an infected airship's boils, and use apples to grow climbable trees to reach higher landings. The whole game feels like a fever dream, but a familiar one. Playing through Cavern of Dreams gave me the same feeling I get when I look at images of liminal spaces. There's an element of comfort and familiarity in this experience I've never had before. It's completely new, but I've played it 1,000 times. Like everything else in Cavern of Dreams, controls feel a little dated, but I have to believe this is intentional. For the most part, it didn't bother me, but I did almost wish I could bust out an N64 controller to play this on, as I oddly think that would feel more natural. Though I suppose that would technically be possible with a USB N64 controller. That's gotta be a thing, right? The only issue I really had with this control scheme was the camera controls, which were a bit stiff and unwieldy. There were moments where I would be platforming near perilous edges and could not get the camera to adjust so I could adequately plan for my next jump or movement. You can adjust camera sensitivity in the options menu, but this didn't seem to help my plight. Janky cameras are one thing I am okay with leaving in the past. Fear not, a pitfall from a deceptive camera angle will not set you too far back, as Cavern of Dreams is quite forgiving in terms of checkpoints. While a puzzle you are working on may reset, you'll never have to backtrack too far upon a death, and your lives are not numbered, which takes a great deal of pressure off. Another thing you may notice is that there's no real combat in Cavern of Dreams. In fact, more often than not, you'll be scolded for swinging your tail at a sibling or an unsuspecting townsperson. Sure, a fan blade may launch you from your perch, but nothing will result in a death animation. It's definitely a more chill experience than even a lot of the platformers I look back on fondly from that era. While I appreciate the vision here, I could have used a little bit more action to add some variety to the gameplay. Collecting eggs and solving puzzles is fun and all, but the worlds feel like they're lacking a bit of life at times. As you can clearly see, the graphics lean heavily into the 64-bit era of games, and it's really effective in its style. A lot of indie devs preserve the pixel art style or try to make modern-looking games, but few try to recapture the magic of the N64. Perhaps these graphics don't hold up as well when viewed through the nostalgia lens, or perhaps it's hard to come to terms with the fact that these once impressive visuals now look bulky, flat, and boxy. And to think this was once the pinnacle of innovation for us. else. Either way, Cavern of Dreams is quite successful at capturing the zeitgeist of that era, and I count that as a win. There's something really warm and inviting about the color scheme and textures used that fits that dream aesthetic flawlessly. Faces appear on all manners of inanimate objects, the NPCs are adorable, and the world is overall one I would happily visit again, even if it could use a few more residents to flesh it out. The soundtrack and overall sound design is equally welcoming, with sunny acoustic guitars and synths, punctuated with flowing waterfalls and chirping birds. Fynn's little grunts are absolutely precious, and there are so many fun little touches to discover, like wooden ducks that quack when hit by your tail. As an overall experience, Cavern of Dreams is a positive one. It's oozing with nostalgia and charm from the N64 era, with plenty of secrets to discover and fun to be had. It has a few boils here and there, like a wonky camera or an unsightly blur filter, but folks looking to relive a little bit of the magic of their childhood will definitely find something here, and you won't even need to dust off your old console.